I don't think very much. It depends on how long you can hold it, but I think it's, and I don't want this to be clickbaity, so please don't put this in the title, but I think it'll have infinite purchasing power eventually. And I can walk through why if you'd like.
The question that keeps millions of people awake at night is this: how much Bitcoin do you actually need to comfortably retire? Jeff Booth's answer may be surprising to many, not because he is promoting some get-rich-quick scheme, but rather because he perceives something fundamentally different and deeply transformative about Bitcoin that most individuals tend to overlook entirely in their discussions.
If you said the current all assets in the world currently equal about $900 trillion. Underneath those assets is about $600 trillion of debt. If you include all of the liabilities and unfunded liabilities, but 600 trillion. And so if that debt went insolvent, all of those assets are worthless, right? Because everything would collapse. So people are measuring their assets within a system that debt is already insolvent, and they're pretending that debt is solvent.
Think about that for a moment. Every asset you own, your house, your stocks, your savings, exists within a system that's fundamentally broken. Booth isn't talking about some distant economic theory. He's describing the mathematical impossibility of our current financial system.
That debt requires more and more manipulation of money forever, exponentially more manipulation of money, so that the assets don't collapse and everything within that system doesn't collapse. So we're at the almost end of days. It could go on a bunch longer, but that system is getting more and more centralized, more and more controlled, and because it has to.
This isn't conspiracy theory. It's cold, hard mathematics. The system can't collapse because we won't let it, which means it has to become increasingly controlled and manipulated. But what if there was something outside this system entirely?
So from Bitcoin's perspective, if you just said you have an open, decentralized, secure protocol bounded by energy, and that's my kind of 5 criteria on what this is. So that system bounded by energy, as long as it stays decentralized and secure, the only thing that would change this is if somehow Bitcoin broke and wasn't decentralized and secure. But that system bounded by energy will reprice all $900 trillion of assets. All. It's not, Bitcoin isn't within the system, it's outside the system, bounded by energy.
Here's where Booth's argument becomes truly revolutionary. Bitcoin isn't competing with stocks or real estate or gold within the existing system. It's an entirely different paradigm, one that could eventually reprice everything else.
So you take that 900 trillion today of purchasing power, not 900 trillion of paper money, of purchasing power, and you divide it by 21 million. Or if you said that how many lost coins, you divide it by a smaller number. But let's say that number equals 43 million. Approximately 43 million of purchasing power in today's currency of Bitcoin.
The math is staggering. If Bitcoin truly reprices the world's wealth, each Bitcoin could theoretically be worth $43 million in today's purchasing power. This figure reflects a significant shift in how we understand value in the digital age. Booth's vision extends beyond this calculation, suggesting that Bitcoin could reshape financial systems and empower individuals globally by decentralizing wealth. As we explore these implications, it's clear that the conversation around Bitcoin isn't just about speculation. It's about envisioning a new economic landscape.
From that system, you're living in the first global free market that has ever existed. And from that system, prices fall every year. Prices, as we automate, as AI moves faster and faster, as AI merges with robotics, as the free market adds more people to the free market and those ideas compete to provide us value, prices fall forever relative to that 43 million. So that 43 million gains more and more value forever. So if you had a small percentage of a Bitcoin in time, that would be enough to live forever.
This is the key insight most people miss. In a truly free market powered by advancing technology, prices should fall, not rise. Your Bitcoin doesn't just maintain purchasing power, it gains purchasing power indefinitely as human productivity soars.
It's very difficult to imagine that system within the existing system.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It isn't in the system. In other words, you have to use first principles and then ask what will happen because of that? What will happen because of that? What will happen because of that? Because when I think about this, I think about all of our mental lattice, all of our books, every single other thing we've ever written is within the system. We've always lived in a control system. It's never been a global free market.
The toughest challenge isn't necessarily grasping the technology behind Bitcoin. Rather, it's liberating ourselves from the mindset shaped by a lifetime in a controlled monetary system. We've never truly experienced a free global market, which makes it difficult for us to envision what such an environment would actually look like. This mental shift requires not just understanding new concepts, but also rethinking the fundamental principles of value, exchange, and economic freedom.
I knew everything about Bitcoin and I couldn't stop it every other way. I did social attacks, I did climate, it's bad for the climate. I did all of these things. If I couldn't stop it, what I would do is I would try to co-opt it. If I knew everything that I knew and I was an adversary, I would try to co-opt it. I would say, I'm so for this. We're going to regulate it to make sure that our country wins on it. And I would get people to trust my centralized coin because it was safe, right?
The greatest threat to Bitcoin isn't technical failure or government bans. It's the possibility that its success leads to centralization. If Bitcoin becomes too popular, it risks being co-opted by the very financial system it aims to replace, where a few entities gain control and undermine the decentralized foundation that makes it appealing. Maintaining its original vision of empowerment is the real challenge as adoption grows. We have examined Jeff Booth's radical thesis that Bitcoin operates outside our current financial system and has the potential to revalue all global wealth, possibly making even small amounts sufficient for retirement. We noted that our current global assets, totaling $900 trillion, are supported by $600 trillion in unsustainable debt. Bitcoin's deflationary nature in a truly free market could offer infinite purchasing power over time. However, we have also recognized the sobering reality that Bitcoin's biggest challenge may be our own human nature.
They would be moving out of self-custody into
the system.
Trading to the system to trade their Bitcoin for a piece of paper. And the Bitcoin would be centralizing as a matter of fact. And it would seem so normal because they were pricing from a fiat system and that fiat system had to drive inflation.
So here's the question for you. If Jeff Booth is right, are you prepared to think outside the system you've always known? Or will you fall into the trap of pricing Bitcoin within the very system it's meant to replace? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.